In the last few years, 3.5 million blacks have been forced to move from their homes and settle in black reservations like this one. There is no proper housing or sanitation, and blacks continue to pour onto these settlements under the South African government's plan to resettle them away from the whites. When the plan is complete, the blacks of South Africa will only be entitled to live on 13% of the total land. They make up over 70% of the population. Blacks in South Africa are not allowed to vote. They have no elected representatives in the South African government, and in order for blacks to move a distance of 20 miles from home, they need a special government pass. Hundreds of blacks are arrested daily for not carrying these passes. It is illegal in the country for a black to marry a white, and if they marry in another country, it is invalid under the South African Immorality Act. A black may not sit beside a white in most cinemas, cannot eat in the same restaurant, nor can he lie in the next hospital bed. There are separate beaches for the white and the black, and a black labourer who works mostly in the factories, fields and mines can take home as little as £5 a week for his efforts. 3 months ago, a 20-year-old cashier at Dunnes Stores in Henry Street, Dublin, said she wouldn't handle South African fruit because of the treatment of blacks in the country. She was suspended. 12 of her colleagues joined her on the picket line. They are also refusing to handle South African fruit.
So we had got a union instruction not to handle South African goods, and when we all decided, the girls were out on strike here now, and some of the girls who were in work and decided that we wouldn't handle the goods. And when I refused to handle them, the rest of the girls had been refusing to handle them as well, but there's a man dressed behind my register when I actually refused, and I was brought up to the office and told I was given a few minutes to think about what I was after doing, and I didn't change my mind, and then they suspended me then indefinitely until I came back in and handled the goods.
It has been a long and isolated strike for them. A call for the other workers in Henry Street to support the protest has been ignored. And despite our government's condemnation of white rule in South Africa, they have not commented on the strike. Meanwhile, most Dunnes shoppers know little of the protest and care less.
Some people, if you stop them and tell them why we're on strike, they'll say, "Oh, I didn't know, or we won't go in now." But a lot of people just don't care. They won't stop and listen to you at all. They just go in anyway. So you have to get the messages.
We think that the government should intervene because they're always speaking out against apartheid and how bad it is, and this is a great opportunity for them to really do something about the situation over there and block all South African produce coming in here, especially outspan oranges and grapefruit. We got a letter of support from Bishop Tutu, Reverend Jesse Jackson from New Zealand, Australia, Tony Benn, Terry Fields from Britain. Literally all over the world. American trade unionists have written support for us. All over the world really we've had letters of support because it is a very unusual strike.
South Africa's Bishop Tutu influenced 2 Dublin men, Anthony and Joseph Bulger, to stop stocking South African fruit in their shop. They put up a notice in their window to say so.
Well, I think really it was the Dunnes Stores was initiated when I seen the treatment they were getting over there. And then with Bishop Tutu getting the Nobel Prize really set the ball rolling. That's when I decided not to.
You were influenced by the strike by the women in Dunnes Stores?
Yes, I think they're getting very bad treatment over there. And especially the fact that the reason they're out, I think, is a matter of principle. They should be allowed, if they don't want to handle South African produce, they should be allowed not to.
How do you think a shop in Dublin can influence the policy of apartheid in South Africa when they have ignored international criticism?
Well, I'm hoping with me being the first in Dublin to do this, I'm hoping other shops will follow my example and maybe they'll get back to the suppliers. When they see no one buying the fruit, they won't buy from South Africa.
And what has been the reaction of your supplier when you told him you weren't going to take South African fruit?
Disappointed, shocked. They didn't want to supply me at all whatsoever. Only one man will supply me, but he won't supply me with oranges at all.
Why is that?
He said they're too expensive. South African are cheap.
Just a few yards from Dunnes Stores is the city's most famous fruit and vegetable market on Moore Street. Here the stall holders took a completely different view. Those, that is, who would say anything at all.
I wonder what you think about it yourself, selling fruit on the market.
We have taken our living, love.
You're not what?
I said we have taken our living, we're standing out under it.
You have to make your living? And you think they're wasting their time?
I think it's ridiculous because, everywhere around is selling the outbound stuff. If they want to stop it, why don't they go down to the B&O where the stuff is coming in? Stuff is still in the market. We can buy it there freely.
don't really understand them, to be honest with you.
Slave wages were.
In South Africa.
I'll tell you this, there's a lot of doctors up under the Tunde, and they're black men. And they're good doctors here, and maybe they come from South Africa. You're talking about black people, you know? There's no difference between white and black.
They probably didn't start off picking fruit at very, very cheap wages. They probably didn't start off picking fruit at very, very cheap
that black
wages.
and they pick fruit wherever their mother or father is.
But by refusing to buy fruit, the idea is that you put pressure on the South African government to change the structure of the country.
You will not. No way.
You don't think that'll change,
No.
have any pressure?
No, it's just on the one. They don't. Just what do they know about South Africa, the young ones and the young ones out there? You should be thanking God you have a job.